everybody, and welcome back to the United Stand, and happy Friday morning. On the show today, Amorim demands transfers, demands money from Sir Jim Ratcliffe. If he is going to turn Manchester United around, he needs a squad. He needs to rebuild this squad. And let's be honest, although we got the win last night, a lot of this squad isn't good enough, and Amorim needs to be able to build a starting 11 that is capable of playing his system. A new Garnacho bid. Could that money be used to start rebuilding under Amorim? I know there's been a lot of talk about Alejandro Garnacho, and buckle in, get your morning coffee, get your morning cup of tea, strap in to the morning show, because I've got a slightly different opinion to Goldbridge on this. Whoa, people can have a different opinion, and I want to bring it into the show, and I want you guys to get your comments in around Alejandro Garnacho as well, and whether you would take the money from Napoli, whether you think we should be selling players like this, because I know a lot of people are against selling an academy product, but if it can help rebuild Amorim's side, should Manchester United take the money? Interesting quote from Paul Scholes on it, comparing Alejandro Garnacho to Kobbie Mainoo. He has a different stance on each of these players. Is that fair to do? And also some more quotes coming in from Amorim as well about how Manchester United are playing and why these players are not quite suited to his system yet, and what we need to do to adapt. Very honest, very brutal for Amorim, and I really like the way he talks. But get in the comments down below, get in your super chats, hit a like on the video. Let's get the debate going on this Friday morning, and welcome everybody to the show. Thank you very much for joining us. So let's get straight into it. Should we do Garnacho or should we do Ruben Amorim first? We'll do Ruben Amorim. So this is what I found very interesting from Ruben Amorim last night, speaking after the Southampton win. And let's not get it twisted. I was going to say Amad Diallo, but it's very well known that he likes to just be called Amad, so that's what I'm going to do. Amad, if we didn't have him, we probably would have lost that game 1-0. And how many times this season have we said, thank God we've got Amad? I generally think, obviously, there's certain players in that team that have been performing quite well. But if you took Bruno and Amad out of that team for the rest of the season, relegation could be a factor. Like, we need to improve the team. And last night, despite the fact, the Amad hat-trick was fantastic, it was amazing, and you love to see that at Old Trafford, there's concerns about this team and about being played off the park by bottom of the league. And that's what happened. Like, Anana kept us in the game as well. So Ruben Amorim will know that. Ruben Amorim will know that that result doesn't hide the fact that a lot of this team needs to be improved. And Ruben Amorim said that he spoke with Sir Jim Ratcliffe after the match. He said, I had 5 minutes with him to talk about different things. The result helped the conversation. I know the fans want to see much better football than this, but we need time. So that was coming in from Laurie Whitwell, that Ruben Amorim basically said it was easier to speak to Sir Jim Ratcliffe, you know, because I got a win, because practically Sir Jim Ratcliffe is his boss. But he spoke to him, he managed to speak to him, and he said, in reality, we need to play better football than this, but we need time. He also said, one of his quotes, about players being suited to the system, they are not suited to playing like that. With the ball, you saw that we had some patterns. It was a great game. After Liverpool and Arsenal, I felt the team was a little bit tired. We were always late, especially in the first half between the lines. Now, for me, I think it's quite obvious why we're better against the bigger teams and not really as good against the smaller teams in this Ruben Amorim system. And if you look at Ruben Amorim's results when he first came into Manchester, since he's become manager at Manchester United compared to other managers. So at the moment, permanent Manchester United manager records in the first 10 Premier League games. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's top with 8 wins, 2 draws, 0 losses. Then it's Ten Hag, then it's David Moyes, then it's Jose Mourinho, then it's Van Gaal. Ruben Amorim is bottom with 3 wins, 2 draws, 5 losses and 11 points compared to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's at 26 points. Now, I think Ruben Amorim's a much better manager than Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I believe in Ruben Amorim. But the players aren't really suited to the way he wants to play. And this is why he needs investment from Sir Jim Ratcliffe, and he needs the transfer windows. As much as we love a lot of these players, I think there's a glaring obvious issue. A lot of these players aren't good at playing possession-based football. And when you're against the lower teams, that is what you're demanded to do, especially at Old Trafford. And we struggle to do it in this system. I think you look at the players, and I wrote this down before, that what players are suited to keep in possession, especially in the final third? The only one would be Amad. and he's playing as wing-back. Hojlund's not suited to it, Garnacho's not suited to it, Bruno can do it, but I think he's better at doing it deeper and taking the ball off the back four in that sense. Like, we don't really have players that are suited to play in a possession-based system. And this is what Amorim's system requires. Recruitment is needed and investment is needed, and no wonder he's speaking to Sergeant Ratcliffe after the game. If I was Amorim, I'd be saying, look, we have Ahmad, thank God he's signed a new contract, he's worked miracles, but I need more. I need investment into this squad. We need to be playing better football, because if we play like we did against Southampton, we won't get the same result. 7 times out of 10, we won't get the same result, and we're not going to be that lucky all the way throughout the season. We can't expect Ahmad to come up with a hat-trick in 12 minutes all the way throughout the season. We need investment. If I was Ruben Amorim, I'd want at least some investment, some backing in January. It doesn't quite look like it's going to happen. It seems like we need to move players out to get some investment in. Rashford deal, God knows what's happening there. One day it's AC Milan, one day it's Dortmund, one day he's waiting for Barcelona. I don't think we can rely on that. Casemiro seems to have gone extremely quiet. It just doesn't feel like there's any money coming into the club. Might be why that we're evaluating getting money in for Alejandro Garnacho, whether you think that's right or not. But Ruben Amorim needs players. If you look at the squad last night, like, realistically, on paper, what teams are we better than? On paper. In the league, like Brighton, realistically, probably, you know, on paper, are a little bit better than us. Like, we need to be competing towards the top, and we need players that suit the way Ruben Amorim wants to play. We don't have enough of them at this moment in time. We've already got some super chats in the room with us, so get your comments in. We have Andy Atherton saying the toxicity by our own fans on X about Rasmus, Yoro, Mainu and Garnacho is disgusting. Liverpool fans would never do that. Who have we become? Trey Warren says, you sell Garnacho, you might as well get rid of Mainu too. Neither are the standard we need right now. Wow, no punches pulled there. I personally think Mainu is the most talented young player we have. That's my personal opinion. Obviously, Ahmad's 22 now, so he's a little bit older, isn't he? But I think Mainu is got absolutely bags and bags of talent, I'm going to be honest with you. But that's, everybody's entitled to their own opinion. You'll see what Paul Scholes has to say on that when I bring it in a second. Keel Robinson says, Anthony comes on and saves us again. Keel loves a bit of Anthony. One thing I will say is, I'll read out, actually, somebody sent me something on Instagram last night when I was just reading through my DMs before I went to bed. And I mentioned on the fans forum that although I think Anthony isn't great, and a lot of things he does, you're like pulling your hair out, like, what? Like how were you 80 million? And that miss was shocking. Ahmad does seem to play really well with him on the right-hand side, and we do need to play attacking wing-backs. That is key. We need to start playing more attacking wing-backs. If you want to move Ahmad up into the right side of 10, I would not be against playing Anthony as a right wing-back. And people might be shocked at that because, you know, Anthony isn't the greatest player we have at Manchester United, but I feel like we need to play with wing-backs that are going to push up the pitch and give us width. And Ahmad and Anthony exchanging on that right-hand side, it gives 2 attacking threats for the defenders to worry about. Mazraoui, as versatile as he is and as good as he is, and in the bigger games, yeah, you want to play him there because he's more defensively solid. But he's just, his natural instinct isn't to get forward and provide that attacking threat, whereas Anthony does. And when he has been on the pitch with Ahmad, they do seem to play well together. So I think it's something to think about. And it is a stopgap. It's not something that's necessarily you're going to go into next season with, because you're probably going to move Anthony on in the summer, potentially even in January. But we need to have more attacking threat from our wing-back positions, and I think that was very obvious yesterday as well. When you push up the pitch, you get more players into the attacking third, and it creates more space for your attackers because they've got more threats to worry about. And that's exactly what happened when Anthony came on that right-hand side. It gave Ahmad more space, and therefore, you know, look, he got a hat-trick. I'm not saying it's all because you had Anthony there. It's not all because of that, but I think it's a big factor, the fact he got more space when that player was on that right-hand side with him. Vinny Red 1 says, I said yesterday in pre-match that the starting front three of Bruno, Garnacho and Rasmus is the worst combination we could pick. Said I was harsh. What are your thoughts now? I mean, my thoughts now is for the next game, I'd be picking Bruno, Ahmad and Xerxes as my front three, probably. It just depends on the wing-back situation, because you might want to play Ahmad at wing-back, potentially. He's done really well there, so it just depends how Amorim kind of goes about that game. But Brighton is not going to be an easy one. Stephen Willock says, Anthony can't be right wing-back, left-footed. It gives no width. I think when you're playing Ahmad there, he can, because they interchange a lot. I've noticed that they interchange a lot on that right-hand side, and it can work and it can distract the defenders. And we've seen it happen a couple of times now. I thought in the City game, Etihad away, when Anthony came off the bench, Ahmad looked livelier. We ended up winning 2-1. I'm not saying it's all because of Anthony, but just having that more attacking threat on that right-hand side does help out. Just remember, Amorim's system is attacking wing-backs. We've had to go with Dalot and Mazraoui because for defensive assurity, the Premier League is tough, and we're adapting to that system, and you've got to build out and you've got to create a foundation. But ultimately, he will want to play more attacking players in them wide positions to create a more attacking style of football. And just look at the stats of how many goals we score when we have attacking wing backs compared to when we have more defensive wing backs, and it's not a surprise. I mean, Amorim said in his post-match press conference, and this is another quote that I took, and I said it just kind of reconfirms in my head that Amorim can see it as well. Amorim often says exactly what the fans are thinking. He said on Ahmad, even in the first half, every time Ahmad gets the ball, he can push the ball. He pushes the other team into the final third, and that is really important. We didn't have a good game, but at this moment, winning is the most important thing. And that's exactly what I was saying on the forum last night, and is exactly what I was thinking in the game. Ahmad is an attacking wing-back. He's pushing up the pitch. You are pushing the players back. It gives you more opportunity to get into their third and move the ball up the pitch and dominate play. A lot of the times, if you have like a Dalot or Mazraoui, they're a little bit more reluctant to step up the pitch. If you have a more attacking-minded player on that wing spot, on the left and on the right, you are automatically pushing the other team back and giving yourself more opportunity. I thought Ahmad could have pushed up even further, to be honest, in the first half. But Yoro on that right-hand side did need a little bit of help. We know how quick that winger was, and we know that Yoro didn't have the best game. So I get maybe that was a little bit of his thinking, but when you have an attacking-minded player on that wing position, it automatically pushes your team higher up the pitch. And Amorim identified that in his press conference as well. So it's something to think about. I'm not saying, there's a certain player that is the solution, but playing more attacking wing-backs is going to help us in terms of our attacking play in the final third. It's just whether it's going to hinder you in terms of conceding goals. But then again, we need players who can keep hold of the ball, because if you had players that can keep hold of the ball when you get into the final third, when you have the ball, the other team can't attack onto you. Like the best form of defence is attack at the end of the day. But unfortunately, we have players at this moment in time, a lot of players, not all of them, but a lot of them, that when they get onto the ball in the final third, we don't keep it for very long because we don't have players that are great at retaining possession, which is why we're better against the bigger teams, and we struggle when the aim of the game, which it is against the Southampton at home at Old Trafford, is to take the game to them and dominate possession play. We got better in the second half. Okay, yeah, Southampton did go man-to-man, but it allowed us to have more space. Therefore, you have more time on the ball, which is what these players need. We also brought on players who, ding, 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 are better at holding the ball and are better at retaining possession. Xerxes is one of them. Eriksen is one of them. One, you've got more space, and two, you have players on the pitch that are better at retaining possession. Suddenly, we have more attacking play, and we look like a better team. It's not a coincidence. Amorim needs money, and that quote to me, I spoke to Sir Jim Ratcliffe, I know the fans want to see better football than this, but we need time, is him saying, please give me some money, please give me some investment. I think you deserve something in January. If PSR is that tight and FFP is that tight, it's frustrating because it's not Amorim's fault, it's not the fans' fault. It's the way we've been run as a football club terribly over years and years and years. But unfortunately, we might have to sell players that we don't really want to. And I know we don't want to, a lot of people don't want to do that, but that is the reality. And if you're faced with that question, do you cash in to get some money to rebuild for Amorim? What do you do? What do you do? And we'll move on to Garnacho in a second, because an improved bid apparently is on its way from Napoli. Garnacho apparently open to the move. Do you cash in on that player? Get your comments in. Let me know your thoughts, because the fact of the matter is that nobody can argue with is Ruben Amorim needs investment, and he needs players that are suitable to play in his style of play coming into this football club. Players with a higher technical flooring than what we currently have, a better technical ceiling than what we currently have, but also physically strong as well, athletes. That's what you need in a Ruben Amorim system. So let's see what happens, but the Garnacho stuff is only going to keep coming back around because Napoli are interested in him and Manchester United, I think, are willing to sell if a big enough offer does come in. But we've got some super chats in from DJ Tonti. Says, when are the owners going to realise that we have a thin team, i.e. not a lot of great players? We need players in this window. A madness, the United stand forever. Stephen Willock says, Anthony can't be right wing back, left-footed, gives no width. I've done that one, thank you everyone. But the Garnacho stuff coming in. And now I know I watched the shows in the United stand and I watched the shows that Golbage does, and he's already put into the group chat this morning, frustrated about the Garnacho story. Again, I know that Golbage is extremely against selling Garnacho. And I understand his point of view. He doesn't think we should be selling an academy product. He doesn't think we should be selling him for the price that has been put out there. He wants, if he did go, he'd want mass amount of money, but he doesn't think we should sell him. He just doesn't think that's the thing that Manchester United could be doing. I've seen him compare us to, we might as well be Everton if we do that. I disagree. I don't disagree in the fact that it's not as if I'm here saying I want Garnacho to go. I don't. Ideally, I would want to keep him. I think I fit into the box that Ruben Amorim fits into right now, and I'm going to explain what that box is. No manager would want to willingly sell a player that is 20 years old, that has potential and has a lot of talent, which is what Garnacho is. No manager would willingly get rid of a valuable member of the squad. Garnacho played the full game yesterday, I'm pretty sure. No manager wants to willingly get rid of that. However, if you're Ruben Amorim and you're having that discussion with Sir Jim Ratcliffe and he says, look, Ruben, we really do want to back you, but I'm going to be honest, FFP, PSR is pretty tight. We're going to need some sort of outgoings if we're going to hurry this process along. If you want us to go for a striker, a left wing back, a left-sided 10, potentially even a right wing back as well, we'll get onto that debate whether Ahmad's going to be a right wing back for the future or a right-sided 10, because that's a big debate as well, because it depends where you're going to go in the market, because we either need a right wing back or we need a right-sided 10. We need somebody to help Ahmad on that right-hand side. Which one we go for, that's up to Amorim, and we'll discuss that in the chat. But if you want the players that you need to get to the top level and compete at a quicker pace, we're going to need money coming into the football club. And then Ruben Amorim goes, who can I sell that holds value and maybe isn't quite suited to my system? At the end of the day, Ruben Amorim is on a 2-year contract. He hasn't got all the time in the world. He needs players now. He needs this team to start improving now. We've not got loads of time to wait. Now, I absolutely agree that there's other players at this football club that ideally we should be getting out of the door before Garnacho, because, and this is why I don't like the FFP PSR thing, because the fact that you get more money from selling an academy player, it doesn't really sit right, and I don't like that. But that's the way it is. Of course, Anthony, Luke Shaw, Casemiro, players like this all need to go before Garnacho does. Even Mason Mount, injury prone. I get that. But you're not going to get money for them in. Ruben Amorim could get 60 to 70 million pounds in for Alejandro Garnacho in pure profit that he can reinvest into a player that suits his system more. And my thinking is, I don't believe in that we might as well be Everton, because City have sold players and they've sold academy players as well. Liverpool have done it, Chelsea have done it. Top teams do this. City sold Cole Palmer. Okay, in hindsight, that's not great. They sold Liam Delap. They've sold academy players before. Liverpool have sold players before. Chelsea have done it, and these teams are all thriving. They're all doing well towards, the top end of the Premier League. So I don't believe in that we might as well be in Everton if we do that. Ideally, I wouldn't want to cash in, but this is my thinking on it, right? I would want to give him the patience, I would want to give him the time to adapt under Amorim. But right now, at this moment in time, if I asked you all in the chat, do you think that Alejandro Garnacho will be a starter for Ruben Amorim this time next year? This time next year, will Alejandro Garnacho be starting for Manchester United regularly? That's the question I asked you. Do you think he will? And if he will, then keep him. But if he won't, if we're going to be in a situation this time next year where he's a bit part player and he's not regularly in the starting 11, then for 60, 70 million pound, surely you take the money while his stock is high. Because his value isn't going to increase unless he is regularly starting and impacting games. It's not going to. Alejandro Garnacho, at this moment in time, it might change, but this is how I see it, is a fantastic left winger in a 4-3-3. I don't see him being a fantastic left-sided 10 in Ruben Amorim's system, and I don't see him having the defensive capabilities to be a wing-back. I just don't. Look at Ahmad. Ahmad is the definition of what you need for a Ruben Amorim system. He's technical, he's physical, he's extremely intelligent, has great anticipation, he's strong, he can play in between the lines. Alejandro Garnacho, he plays well when he has space, he plays well on the outside. He's not the strongest in defensive duels. I just don't see him adapting to being able to be a starter in a Ruben Amorim system within the next year. And if that's not the case, then with that money, you could get a player in that can do that. That's what I'm trying to say. So as much as I do like him and I wouldn't want to sell him, if that's what we have to do, I think it's something we need to consider. Because you could get that money, invest in someone who can do that. And every single person has said on the show before, with the new manager coming in, it's all about the manager. It's all about the manager. It's what he wants. No player is untouchable. And if we're going to change as a football club, we've got to understand, like, we can't be player FC. We've got to do what's best for the team. Even if it's one of your favourite players, that might not suit the way Ruben Amorim wants to play in the system. And Alejandro Garnacho might become a victim of this. He's a fan's favourite. Everybody loves him, myself included. But you've got to go with what's going to work best for this manager and how we're going to get back to the top in the quickest possible way. And I mean, get in the comments down below. I know a lot of people will disagree with this and I know a lot of people won't want to sell. But if you get 60, 70 million in and you can spend that on a player that's going to be a top player starting week in, week out, is it worth it? And you've got to say, it probably would be. If you could get a player in with that money, it's just whether you trust INEOS with the recruitment. If you could get a player in for that money that is top class, that's going to be starting games and going to improve our starting 11, it is probably worth it. It's just whether they will spend the money in the right way, because so many times in the past, we haven't spent the money in the right way. Get in the chat though, I want to start a poll. If Garnacho did stay at Manchester United, this time next year, would he be starting under Ruben Amorim? Because that's the question. If he would be, keep him. If he's not going to be, get the money and get someone in who will be. Ruben Amorim doesn't have years and years and years to wait. And it's unfortunate, but that's the position that we're in. Dan O'Connell says, how much could we use from the sale then if we get 60 million and Amorim? Okay, then yes. Otherwise, it's desperation for PSR, and that is on the owners. It is desperation and it is on the owners. I 100% will be on the show and say it is on the owners. We shouldn't have to be in a position where we have to do this. But years of terrible decision making and bad ownership has led us to this position. And that is the Glazers. 100% call out the Glazers. Absolutely. They are the reason we are in this position. But the fact of the matter is, we are in this position. There is nothing we can do about it now. We can't just sit here and moan about it all day long and it's not going to go away. We have to deal with it. INEOS have to deal with it. And unfortunately, that means potentially having to sell a player from the academy, which isn't nice. But if he's not going to be a start under Ruben Amorim, it's something you've got to consider, and Napoli are there. And you've also got to think about the player as well. Garnacho is going to want to be starting games. He's going to want to be a starter in a team, and he deserves to be. I don't think he's a lot of people like slate Garnacho. A lot of people love him, but a lot of people slate him. I think Garnacho is a top talent that can do really well in the right team. But different players suit different systems. Look at Ugarte under Ten Hag compared to under Amorim. Ugarte didn't work at PSG. He was fantastic at Sporting. Players have different attributes to different systems. Ugarte suits the Amorim system like a glove, therefore he thrives. Garnacho is going to suit a team where he has that freedom on that left-hand side a lot more than what I think he would suit a Ruben Amorim system. And that's not bad to say. It doesn't mean someone's a bad player. Players thrive in different environments under different coaches and suit different systems. That's just the way it is. Like, not every player is going to suit every single manager. Dalot was miles better under Ten Hag than he currently is under Ruben Amorim. That might change, but that's what it is right now. Players suit different systems. It doesn't mean they're bad players. Like, apparently Real Madrid were interested in Dalot, and I think Dalot as a right back in a back four would be a lot better than as a left wing back in a back three or a back five, whatever you want to call it. It's back three, isn't it, with wing backs? Different players suit different things. Luis Rodriguez says Ghana is always going to be better at left wing. It's simple. Exactly, and we're never going to play that system under Amorim. He's married to that system. You can't ask Amorim to change for a player. Real Carl Brown Amory says, thing is, Beth, we are crap and selling. If we are selling Garnacho, we try to max out, so will he do that? Bourne says, Garnacho can be moulded into what Amorim wants. Where will he play? Where will he play in a year's time? And will he be starting? Sean from Ireland says, right wing back would be half the price of a right 10. I think that's a really interesting point from Sean. Enjoy Writing says, I want to see Beck's knighted Beth, end of. James Cave says, morning Beth, great work. Do you think Amorim will play defensive wing backs until he gets his own centre backs? I don't think he trusts them one-on-one currently. I think that's a really interesting point. I think the centre back situation, I think De Ligt is doing really well. I think Maguire's doing really well. I think Amorim likes Martinez, but I think Martinez can improve still. I think it's about, you know, getting used to that system, but I think it's an interesting point about the centre-backs going 1v1 because we know it's Sporting. His centre-backs were straight onto the press, and sometimes we are a little bit behind in terms of doing that. I think that's one, getting used to the system, and he might want to get another centre-back in. DJ John T says, when are owners going to realise that we have a thin team? Not done that one, thank you very much. And Sessions with Simon says, all I can say is thank God Ahmad signed until 2030. Darren Taylor says, hi Beth, we need to go for Anthony Robinson. And Liam Vernon says, train Garnacho into a left cam. Keel Robinson says, keep him loans and freebies until 2026. Do you think Garnacho can be trained into a left cam, though? Because I look at Garnacho and I look at Ahmad, they're two very different players. And Ahmad is the epitome of what a Ruben Amorim system requires in the way he plays. I just think Garnacho is a different sort of player. I don't think Garnacho's ever going to have the intelligence in the way he plays, the way that Ahmad does, and the same attributes that Ahmad does. And that doesn't mean he is a worse player. It just means he's not suited to the same way that this system requires. By the way, I do think Ahmad is a better player than Garnacho. Like, technically he's better. But I don't see him being trained into a left-sided 10. I don't see him ever being good enough on the ball or ever being able to keep the ball in tight spaces well enough of what we need. I don't see it, but you guys might do. But get your votes in on the poll. This is what Paul Scholes had to say about it. Scholes says, United can probably get better than Garnacho. Although he's young and there's more to come, he's scruffy in his technique at times and his decision-making at times is really poor. I wouldn't be worried if they sold him, but Mainoo, I'd be offended by that. So he's saying, basically, don't sell Kobbie Mainoo, but Alejandro Garnacho you can probably get away with selling. That's Paul Scholes' opinion. I think it's a bit harsh on Garnacho, to be honest with you. Yeri is a bit scruffy in possession, and, you know, he does miss easy chances and his decision-making can be poor. But I think that's all part and parcel of being a young player. At 20 years old, you are going to need time to develop. You are going to need time to adapt. I think that's part and parcel of that. Mainoo's completely different. Who do I think has the higher potential? I personally probably think Kobbie Mainoo. But I think Alejandro Garnacho has a very, very high ceiling. And I think in the right team, he can do really well. I just don't think it's in this system, to be honest with you. That's my reasoning as why. Because if someone said to me, you have to sell one, Garnacho or Mainoo, I'd sell Garnacho. But that's just because I think Mainoo's more suited to the way we're going to play. And I think he has a higher ceiling. Garnacho, if it was a 4-3-3, it'd be a little bit more of a difficult decision. Because I think he would be more suited to that. But he's not. Which is why I would be open to cashing in. Goldbridge is in the chat saying it's because of the British passport. I don't think it is. For me, it's not. I think it's just looking at the player that has more value to this current team? Like, who in the future, this time next year, is going to be more valuable to this team? I personally think Kobbie Mainoo. I don't think we should be in a position where we have to sell either, but unfortunately, PSR could be a reason why we have to do that. And if Ruben Amorim's got to sell one player that's going to hold a bit of money, it's going to be the one that's least suited to his system, which in this current moment in time is Alejandro Garnacho. I mean, this I found interesting, so I thought I'd bring it into the chat as well. Is last night we had David Ornstein and Laurie Whitwell say Napoli have contacted Manchester United for Alejandro Garnacho, but the club are not actively looking to sell him, and the figures Napoli have mentioned so far are far from the value that would make the club think. Now, I think that this is Manchester United playing hardball, trying to get a bigger fee from Napoli because they know how much they've just sold Kvaratskhelia for. Now, it's interesting because they're saying Manchester United are not actively looking to sell him, and, you know, it's unlikely that Manchester United would want to sell him. But a week ago, David Ornstein just randomly came out there, which I thought was random to drop out of the blue. Ornstein never really does stuff like this. So this is a week ago. Manchester United will reluctantly consider the sale of homegrown talents like Kobbie Mainoo and Alejandro Garnacho to help comply with financial rules. Manchester United not actively looking to trade the pair, but neither are untouchable if suitable offers arrive. Now, I said this time last week, to me, that is Manchester United putting it out there, come and have a crack, because we need the money. Not actively looking to sell them, but we will if a big enough offer comes in. That was come and have a go, and it made me a little bit worried. Now it's coming out not actively looking to sell him, but a week ago you were like, you know, we'd take a big bid. I still think if Napoli knock on the door to Manchester United and give them anything over 60 million, I think they'll take it for Alejandro Garnacho. And I think they know that they've got the money from the Kvaratskhelia deal, so they're trying to play hardball. I think that's what it is. I think there's a real possibility that Alejandro Garnacho might go. And you never know. I don't think Garnacho wants to leave Manchester United, but Ruben Amorim might have a very honest discussion with him and say, game time-wise, you're probably going to be better off at Napoli. He might have that discussion with him. And Alejandro Garnacho, you know, iconic Argentines at Napoli, he might fancy that. I think he'd do very well in the Italian league. I think he's a hard worker. I think Antonio Conte would really like him, and that's what's come out from Fabrizio Romano. That's what might happen. I'd be gutted to see him leave, but I think it's a real possibility. The only issue with him leaving in January, for me, I'd be more comfortable with him leaving in the summer because it gives us more time to get a replacement in. Is if he goes in January, Rashford also goes, we are absolutely thin. We are down to the bare bones in terms of attacking depth. Like, genuinely, who have you got for attacking depth? You would have to bring someone in. And who can you really get in January? Like, he's a valuable member of the squad right now. Like, Dalot didn't start yesterday, Garnacho plays. Ahmad was injured for the Arsenal Cup game, Garnacho played. Who do you have if Garnacho's not there? That's the issue. Like, Anthony, you don't really want to be doing that. So that's where you're at in terms of if it was a January sale, it literally would be out of desperation to get the money in and not knowing whether that money will come in the summer, whereas you know Napoli have got that money now. And I know a lot of people are very like, yeah, but we'll just waste that 60 million, we'll just waste that 60 million. I think people need to understand, a lot of people will, is that 60 million of pure profit is extremely good for the books. Like, that's not just like 60 million in, you can spend that 60 million on just like one player worth 60 mil. That could go across 3 players because Manchester United pay for players in instalments. So that could help fund like 3 different transfers for Manchester United and Ruben Amorim. Like, genuinely, because you're not going to pay 60 million up front all at once. You're probably going to pay a first instalment of around 10 million, and then the rest comes over instalments in different financial years. So that 60 million of pure profit, that could be a left wing back, a left-sided 10, and a right wing back potentially. Or, you know, it could go towards a striker and a left wing back. Like, it could go across multiple players for Manchester United. And I also stand by the fact that I do think under Sir Jim Ratcliffe and under INEOS, it's going to be a long time before you see Manchester United really splurge on a signing. Because for too long our top 5 signings have all been very questionable, and a lot of them have flopped. Like, let's be real. Like, whenever we spend big on a player, it's not really worked out. this summer we didn't do it. Like, I doubt we'll see Manchester United spend over 60 million on a player for a long time. Like, I just don't think it'll happen. I think, you know, like the 100 million Declan Rices that Arsenal have done, I don't think Man United are going to do that for a while. And if we ever do that in the future, I think it'll be when we've rebuilt a team that is very, very close to being like Ruben Amorim's best team and complete. And you might need to go and spend that big amount of money to get like the missing piece or to get someone really worthwhile. But when you are spending that amount of money, it has to be the bullseye. It has to be worthwhile. Liverpool spent big on Van Dijk and Alisson, but they were bullseye signings and they'd already built a decent enough team at the time and they spent well in other areas. Declan Rice, okay, 100 million's a lot, but he's been a really good signing for Arsenal. Manchester United has spent silly money in the past on players that aren't good enough. We need to focus on rebuilding the team first with players that are good enough but are also going to progress and maybe the cheaper options. And then when that team is ready to progress into the elite, maybe you might need to go and look for that 100 million signing. But like Sir Jim Ratcliffe said, we want to buy future Mbappes, not buy Kylian Mbappe. That's where Manchester United are at this moment in time. So it's not as if we're going to take that 60 million and spend it all on one player. Like, that could go on to 3 different players with PSR and instalments over the course of multiple financial years. So that's also something to think about as well. The poll in the chart: if Garnacho stays at United, will he be starting next year? Yes or no? Get your votes in. We've got Andy Everton saying Hojlund has just signed a 9.5-year deal. Yeah, crazy. Money talks, guys. Money talks. Apparently, he's going to be City's highest ever paid player. Rumours of him being on 500 grand a week. A release clause in there past 2029, so he could leave still. It'd be a big release clause, but someone could still come in for him. Money talks. And I highly doubt City are going to get charged if they're out here giving 9.5-year deals out at 500 grand a week. And Haaland's willingly signing that. So, is what it is. You know, they've got the best lawyers, haven't they? Like, it's frustrating, but what can you do? But also, as much as I do think it's unfair, and allegedly, you know, they've broke financial rules, and if that has happened, they should be charged with it. They have sold a lot. Like, they've sold a lot of academy players. Some would argue, how have they managed to get that price for some of them? I would also argue that, but they have sold a lot. They've won a lot. They didn't really spend much in the summer, but it's that period where they were building that team. You know, that period when Pep first came in and they were just throwing money at it. Even under Mancini a little bit, they were just throwing money at it, and that's where they should be charged for. In recent years, they probably haven't broke financial rules like in the last few years. But when Pep first came in, I find it difficult to believe that they managed to do that all above board. It's just my personal opinion. It's frustrating, but that's where we're at. We've got to focus on ourselves at the end of the day. Nick P says, if Garnacho leaves for football reasons, I'm okay with that. If it's financial, why on earth should we, as fans, shoulder that burden of their mistakes and bad planning, trying to budget for them? But we're in that position. We are in that position. Like, it's not going to change. It's frustrating we have to deal with that, but that's where we're at and we've got to deal with it. Rune says Napoli would pay United instalments also, so then we can't really use that for multiple players. We could use it for multiple players. Cooper says ridiculous, since when were players complete at 20 years old? Seth Walter says, Beth, so we sell our academy players to help the clubs us prior poor signing deck. I don't understand what you're trying to say there. I think you're trying to say we sell our academy players to help the clubs, you know, poor mistakes in the past. We might have to. We can't undo what we've done in the past. It's annoying, and yeah, I agree with you. I am so annoyed at that, but we can't help it. Like, we can't go back in time. All we've got to do is do better now. And everyone's been saying for a long time, change is needed. Nobody's above being sold for the right price. Do what the manager wants. At the end of the day, Garnacho isn't starting for Manchester United when everyone's fit. The manager probably doesn't fancy him that highly in his system. You can get a lot of money for him. Like, I don't think it should be an absolutely, like, I don't think it should be being talked about as if it's like a crime against a football club. Like, these things happen in football sometimes. Dimitri says, selling Garnacho doesn't mean that the Glazers will buy. Ron United says, check his age, Beth. Can we please cut him some slack? Whether he's a starter next season or not, he has the potential to improve our squad massively. Ron. I know he's 20. I know he's got room for development. I've stated all these things. I don't think he's a bad player. I think he's a good player with the capability of being a very good player at his age. But I don't think he's suited to this system. I think he'd be suited in a different system and he would excel massively. I don't expect United to sell Garnacho and him just to go away. I expect him to have a very good career and I'd want him to do that. I just think it's like, do your suit. Do Amorim and Garnacho suit each other? Sessions with Simon says, oh, I've done that one. All I can say is thank God for Ahmad signing the contract. Yeah. Anyway, that's the news on Alejandro Garnacho. One thing I will say is there is a rumour out there that Napoli are going to put an improved bid in for Alejandro Garnacho during this January transfer window. Their last bid was an absolute insult of 38 million plus add-ons. I don't think it was like an official bid, but they contacted Manchester United about it. It would have to be £70 million for me. And I think Napoli, £70 million, €70 million. €70 million. We'd have to get a decent fee. I'm not saying selling for 40. I think that would be ridiculous. It would have to be a decent fee. But I think clubs out there, for the right system, would be willing to pay that. And you've got to understand that Napoli have just had a big amount of money come in for Kvaratskhelia, and they will be looking for a replacement. Hence why Manchester United are probably playing hardball. But that's the news on Alejandro Garnacho at this moment in time. Get in the comments what you think. Do you think Scholes is right to say that he wouldn't be frustrated if they got rid of Garnacho, but he'd be offended if they got rid of Manu? Manu got substituted at half-time last night. I mean, what are your thoughts on that? For me, I think it was just fatigue. And, you know, he's suited to different games. Yesterday's game, I don't think he was entirely suited to that, and that's okay. He's 19 years of age. Like, this is going to happen with our young players. A lot of people getting on Lenny Yoro's back yesterday. I thought that was harsh. I thought that was really harsh. Did Yoro have a poor game? Yes. He got spun like nobody's business. That winger was extremely quick, and it is a game that will teach Lenny Yoro a lot for the future. Just because he had a bad game against Southampton at 18 years old does not mean he's a bad player. We've seen him come on against Arsenal, do fantastically well. We've seen him come on against Liverpool and do fantastically well. He got twisted and turned by that Southampton winger. We hold our hands up and say, yeah. I had Cecil from AFTV messaging me yesterday saying we need to talk about Lenny Yoro. I'm absolutely comfortable. I'm fine with Lenny Yoro. And do you know what? Ruben Amorim, to leave him on for as long as he did, fair play. Because a lot of managers would have hooked him because he was getting rinsed. And I thought it was only a matter of time by that they got a goal down that side. But Ruben Amorim left him on for quite a big portion of the game. Might be down to desperation in the fact that Harry Maguire obviously had a knock and he probably didn't want to use Harry Maguire that much. He wanted to keep him fit. But also he put faith in his player to deal with that. And do you know what? As much as he got spun, at the end of the day, we didn't concede through that. Like, we didn't. So Yoro will learn a lot. I think the fan base needs to be patient. But I think what we can say is, thank God, we also bought De Ligt in the summer. And I think it's so important that we did that. And I think it shows the way that Ruben Amorim is managing Lenny Yoro at this moment in time is absolutely perfect. He hasn't been getting many starts. He's been coming off the bench and he's had Maguire or De Ligt to put an arm around him and have them experienced players around him. And I think that is helping him a lot. He earned a start against Southampton at home. He did. And he got given a big task to go up against the winger of that kind of pace. He got twisted and turned, and that'll be a lesson for him. At 18 years old, I think in the future of his career, when he's more experienced and he goes on to do the things that we know he can, like, he's a top talent, a generational talent that Real Madrid were interested in. I'm not worried. Like, he will look back on that game and say, this is what I think anyway. He'll look back on that game and he'll be like, honestly, came into Manchester United, when they say about the Premier League, bottom of the league, they had 6 points and I got absolutely rinsed. And that just shows the quality of the Premier League and how you cannot take any single game for granted. In Ligue 1, no offence, it's a farmers' league, the league he was playing in. there's no way that bottom of the league could be able to come and do that sort of damage, I don't think. Whereas in the Premier League, every single team has that player that can cause something for you. Even Southampton, they had Diblin and they had, I can't remember his name, it begins with an S. The one that was rinsing Yoro anyway. Like, he will take so many lessons from that. And I think, thank God we bought De Ligt in, because Ruben Amorim now has this time to allow Lenny Yoro to adapt, allow him to grow in confidence, allow him to play minutes here and there and also get a few starts here and there. If we'd only signed Yoro, we would be relying on him to start pretty much week in, week out. And we would be. Because as good as Maguire's been, he can be injury prone. And then Johnny Evans has been injured for how long? Martinez hasn't played top tier every single week. Like, you would be relying on Yoro. Mazraoui, I actually think he's a fantastic right-sided centre-back, so that could have been a blessing in disguise. But it was so important that we went and got De Ligt, especially in a Ruben Amorim system that relies on 3 centre-backs in a back 3. So Lenny Yoro, not worried. I think anybody going in on him is ridiculous. I genuinely think it is ridiculous. When I'd be concerned is if he was, he'd been here for a couple of seasons, he was playing week in, week out, and that's how he was playing week in, week out. We're nowhere near that yet. He's shown a lot of promise. He's shown a lot so far in his cameos at Manchester United. He had a bad game, and a bad game doesn't mean he's a bad player. So he'll learn a lot from that. Not worried at all. And I think our fans should be really, really patient with this player. Ruben Amorim said before the game he's the future of Manchester United. And in terms of people be like, well, why aren't you saying that for Rasmus Hojlund, Beth? Why aren't you saying that for Alejandro Garnacho, Beth? Like, Yoro gets more patience, 1, because he's younger, and 2, because he's only just come into this football club. Like, he's barely played for Manchester United so far. Alejandro Garnacho has played a lot of games for Manchester United. Rasmus Hojlund has played a lot of games for Manchester United. These players are young, and of course they deserve patience, and of course you can't expect the world from them, and senior players have to step up. I get that. But when you are playing a lot of games for Manchester United, more expectation comes. And that the same will happen with Yoro. The more he starts playing and the more experience he gets, people will expect more from him. That's just what happens in football. And in terms of, I spoke about Garnacho a lot in terms of where I'm at with him. I'd be happy with him to stay, but I don't think it's the end of the world if we cash in. With Rasmus Hojlund, that's another conversation that probably needs to be talked about. I was watching TalkSport this morning, and who was it? Jason Cundy was saying that 21 years old or 22 years old, he should not be relied upon to lead the line at Manchester United. It's not his fault he was 72 million. I agree with both them points. But the fact of the matter is, still, he was 72 million. He has been here for 2 seasons now. We need more. We need more. And again, this is not the player's fault. It goes back to poor recruitment, poor ownership. We never should have paid that price. He should have come in. I don't regret buying Rasmus Hojlund, but he should have been bought as like a £20 million player, whilst we also bought a more experienced striker to lead the line as well. And he had somebody to learn. Just for example, this is exactly what should have happened with Rasmus. Do you know how we bought De Ligt and Yoro? That's what should have happened with Rasmus. De Ligt came in as the more experienced centre-back, took the burden off Yoro's shoulders, allows Yoro to come on, have these cameos, allows him to adapt, arm around the shoulder. He has an experienced player to learn off. What we did with Rasmus is we brought. It's like if we only brought Yoro in this summer and just expected him to play and be top class straight away. We should have brought Rasmus in with a more experienced striker that was ready. That's what these players can learn from. We've not got that striker that's going to throw himself at a diving header. We've not got that striker that's got excellent movement in the box. We've not got a striker that has excellent movement, is capable of an ice-cold finish, but also has got good hold-up play as well. We've not got a striker that can make things difficult for Premier League centre-backs. Rasmus couldn't even hold the ball up against Southampton centre-backs. Never mind if you're asking him to do it against a Van Dijk or a Gabriel or a Saliba, towards the top of the league. We needed someone in there to come and teach these strikers and teach our players, but we don't have that, and that is on the recruitment and that is on the ownership. I said yesterday on the fans forum, and I don't regret saying this, is that I do think Rasmus Hojlund looks like a player who is in need of a loan. You should not be saying that for a player that's worth 70 million. I understand. The price tag's not his fault. I genuinely think Rasmus Hojlund could do with a loan. And somebody mentioned it on the fans forum last night. Leicester under Rude. I think it'd do him a world of good. Premier League football without the weight of Manchester United on your back week in, week out, to kind of go out there and learn your trade. Learn under a Jamie Vardy. I think it'd be fantastic for him. People might laugh at that, but I'm genuinely being serious. What do you do when it comes to the summer when you want to go and get a Gyökeres, you want to go and get an Osimhen, but you have Hojlund and Xerxes? I don't think there's space in the squad for three. Unless Xerxes, is converted into that, Havertz type, can play midfield, can also play striker. He's got versatile type forward. But it's something that Manchester United need to be thinking about, and Ruben Amorim will definitely be thinking about, because what we're seeing right now isn't enough from our centre forwards. It's not enough. Joshua Xerxes done really well as an impact sub. I said yesterday I really want to see him get a run of games, but there's no guarantee if he gets a run of games he's going to have the same impact that he's had off the bench the last few games. I hope he does. I think Joshua Xerxes is doing really well off the bench, but I also think it's looking good because Rasmus at this moment in time is literally offering nothing, and I don't want to be harsh, but it's true. So when Xerxes coming off the bench, you're thinking, oh my gosh, a player that's actually involved. Oh my gosh, a player that's getting us into the final third. A player that's got a bit of link-up play. We need top tier. We don't have top tier right now. And I do want to see Joshua Xerxes get a run of games, because I think technically with the ball at his feet, he's offering more, and that's just giving Manchester United more outlet in the final third, and he's getting more involved, and he's getting us up the pitch, and we're having more chances when Joshua Xerxes is on the pitch. But ultimately, a striker is absolutely needed in this team, and it's just where does Ruben Amorim go in the summer? And is Joshua Xerxes and Rasmus Hojlund in that period now where from now until the end of the season, they've got to step up, or else one of them, is probably going to be coming under scrutiny, because we do need to bring a striker in. There's absolutely no doubts about it. You can't have three strikers. Does Rasmus go on loan? I said I would loan him out. I would. I'm not fearful of saying that. Where do you go? Joshua Xerxes does offer something different. Does that mean it puts him higher in the pecking order because he can give you something that little bit different? He has that Martial type play where he can hold up the ball really well, link up play well. Martial was great at that. Doesn't have the ice cold finish that Martial has. That's something to maybe think about, but it gives you something different. If you're looking to bring a Gyökeres in, it gives you something. Xerxes gives you something different. What happens with that is something to think about, because going into the summer, a striker is massively needed, and you can't keep everyone. Our squad isn't good enough, and there's areas we need to improve on. And that means some players will have to either, be sold or go out on loan. Ron United says, so at his age, we have already decided that Garnacho is not good enough to learn a new system. Do we get a left wing again in case Ruben's tactics fall in a few years? Ron, look, you can have a different opinion to me. That's absolutely fine. I'm just saying I'm investing into Amorim. I'm not investing into certain individuals. I'm investing into Amorim. If Amorim wants Garnacho to stay, I would love that. I like Garnacho. Fantastic in the FA Cup final, done a lot for United. I think he's got a great attitude in terms of, the way, he gives everything on a football pitch. I like him. But the fact of the matter is, I don't think he's good enough to play Ruben Amorim's system. That's my opinion. You can disagree with it. That is fine. Jason Hanna says, Beth, genuine question. What is Hojlund good at? I just don't see it with him. For me, given service, I think he can finish, but I don't think he gets enough service, because I don't think his movement's good enough. I think he needs one-to-one lessons with Edison Cavani. Genuinely, his movement isn't good enough to get... People talk about service, he's not making it easy for him to get service, because I don't think his movement's good enough, but he can finish if he has a chance. But for me, what's worrying is I think he's regressed, and that's always concerning if he's regressed. And again, another reason why I think he needs to go out on loan, because I think Hojlund looked more promising last season than he does this season, and that's not great in terms of when you're looking at a player's development. Sharon Wood says, handball yesterday. Yeah, but what are you going to do? VAR and refereeing in this country is never consistent. No, he says sell Garnacho, but then at least target top players. Nick P says, I've done that one, thank you very much. Zane Miassi says, we will have our revenge at Old Trafford. Come on, you Gunners. Zane, at the end of the day, United are going to finish on more trophies than Arsenal this season. I said what I said. And I believe that. I genuinely believe that. So come back at the end of the season and let's see who's finished on more trophies yet again. Let's see. In terms of when you say about getting better players in, like imagine Cunha on that left-sided 10. Imagine Cunha there. There's other players that you could talk about, but there is players out there that you could go and get. In terms of, I just quickly wanted to finish on this, and the poll on if Garnacho stays at United, will he be starting next year? 59% of you say yes. 41% of you say no. I genuinely, I disagree with you. What do you see that makes you think he's going to be good enough to start this time next year? Who's he displacing in that 11? He's not starting over Ahmad. He's not starting over Bruno. Does Bruno drop back? And even so, Cunha would be 10 times better. 10 times better right now. Other players would be better. Like, if we're looking to compete for Champions League football, do you really see Garnacho starting as a left-sided 10 week in, week out? I don't get where 59% of you are getting he's going to be starting from. If I'm wrong, I hold my hands up and I hope I am. Just don't see it. I just do not see it. Last thing I wanted to quickly touch on is Ahmad's goals coming from the right wing-back area. By the way, scoring a hat-trick in 12 minutes as a right wing-back is crazy, by the way. Ahmad is ridiculously talented. But there's this big debate right now is whether his future position is right wing-back and right 10. And I don't think it's completely cut and dry. Get him on the pitch and he will flourish. But looking to the future and looking at recruitment, where do you go and recruit? Do you recruit for a right-sided 10 or do you recruit for a right wing-back? I think Ahmad can play both. The one thing that I was thinking yesterday in terms of him being so good at right wing-back, because he's so suited to it, because his anticipation at winning the ball back is fantastic. He's ridiculously strong. He's deceptively quick. He's technically fantastic on the ball. He's great at playing wide, but he's also great at coming inside. He just suits that position so well. But also because he's our best forward player, you want to get him closer to goal. But there was rumours that Manchester United are linked to Mbeumo in the summer. And that's just something I wanted to touch on, because if there's a possibility that Manchester United get Mbeumo, that right-hand side with Mbeumo and Ahmad could be crazy good. Like crazy good. Mbeumo has got everything you would want for this system and for a club like Manchester United. He's Premier League proven. He's physically top. He's an athlete. He's got athleticism. He's technically good on the ball. He's got that turn of pace. He's versatile. I think Mbeumo could play right-sided 10. He could play strike if you wanted to. I think he could even play right wing-back. So that's something to look at in terms of looking to the future of the right wing-back and right-sided 10. If you're wanting to play with a more attacking wing-back, Mbeumo could play there. I think his best position would be right-sided 10. Ahmad can play right wing-back and Mbeumo could play right-sided 10. I think that would be a deadly combination on that right-hand side. And it's just something to think about in terms of where Ahmad's future position is in this team. We just know he's a starter at this moment in time. I think if you look at it on paper, Ahmad's one of them players where it's like, he's probably one of the only players that I could comfortably say right now is the quality needed for Manchester United to compete. These are the level that we need to get all our other positions up to. And that's why, unfortunately, some fan favourites are not going to last under Ruben Amorim unless he can literally get out a magic wand and change players very quickly. But like I said, Ruben Amorim, remember this, guys, Ruben Amorim is on a 2-year contract. He doesn't have all the time in the world. He's not got all the time in the world for players to adapt and suddenly become good. We need players for now. I've just seen someone in the chat say, if you add Mbeumo and Cunha to this team, like, it takes us up levels. Imagine Cunha is in that left-sided 10. Imagine Mbeumo there and Ahmad. Like, automatically, you have got players that are Premier League proven, that are giving you so much more attacking threat, but are physically strong, can win duels, and are athletic enough to run like mad dogs and play the way that Amorim wants to play. Getting money in allows you to invest in players like that. So we are going to have to be harsh on some players. Some players are going to have to go. And I've seen someone in the chat saying, so not Ugarte then. Yeah, Ugarte is obviously one of the first names on the team sheet. I'm just saying the technical ability that Ahmad has, that's what we need, like, across majority of the positions in this team. We just don't have it. Look, everyone, I'm going to leave you with that. I know a lot of people don't like the Premier League proven argument, but it's there to see. Like, if you add Cunha and Mbeumo to this team, automatically it takes it up levels. And some players will have to depart for us to do that. I'm not saying it has to be them individual names, but I'm just giving you an example. Because this team, at this current moment in time, we all sit here and we say, oh, but we love this player, oh, but we love that player. Oh, but that player I really love. Oh, that player's got potential. That player's, oh, but he's got potential. Come on, he's going to be good. He's going to be good next year or in a couple of years. This moment in time, like without Ahmad yesterday, and then without Onana, we would have lost to bottom of the league with 6 points. We would have been 15th in the Premier League. This squad on paper is not good enough. It needs improvements. And unfortunately, some people's favourite players might have to depart in doing so. But I am willing to do anything that Ruben Amorim wants and to back into him. He's the manager and he's who I'm investing my stocks into. I will leave you with that on this Friday morning. Thank you everyone for watching. Please hit a like on the video. Love the interaction and I love the super chats as well. And I know that the majority of you, 60%, thought a little bit different to me this morning. That's the whole point of the United Stand. And I wanted to come on here and just offer a different opinion to Goldbridge. I know he's been very, 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 very firm on the Garnacho stance. I wanted to offer something different because the United Stand is about a load of different opinions and that's the most important thing. So thank you everyone for watching. Comment down below what you think, whether you agree, whether you disagree. Let us know your thinking. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Have a lovely Friday, whatever you're doing. I need to now go and get a coffee the size of my head because I got home from the forum last night at like 1 in the morning. We're back here on the 10 a.m. show. Presser is coming, Ruben Amorim, his thoughts before the Brighton game. Are you confident going into that Brighton game? We'll see what Ruben Amorim has to say. And I will see you on the next one, everybody.